Is type 2 diabetes reversible? If you are a woman over 40 who worries about diabetes, maybe you're struggling with your weight and your doctor has told you that you're pre-diabetic or that you have type 2 diabetes, this episode is for you. I'm so excited to introduce you to Dr. Jason Shumard. Dr. Shumard is a functional medicine practitioner with over 20 years of experience specializing in type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and metabolic health. He works with adults and especially women who feel completely stuck despite doing everything right. And his whole approach is about finding the root cause of why the body is not responding the way that it should instead of just telling you to try harder. In this conversation, we get into why insulin resistance and blood sugar imbalance are often the missing piece that no one has explained to you, how blood sugar affects your hormones, your cravings, and your body's ability to burn fat, and what simple practical shifts actually support your metabolism without extreme restriction or another diet that leaves you feeling deprived. Dr. Shumard has a gift of taking complex science and making it really clear and actionable. And I really enjoyed this interview with him. So I think you're going to love it. This is episode number 249 of the Healthy Real Food podcast. Is diabetes reversible? A conversation with Dr. Jason Shumard. This is the Healthy Real Food podcast. I'm your coach, Erin Hart, a registered nurse and health coach who understands the struggle of feeling out of control around food and has walked the path of transformation. If you are a woman who feels powerless against your cravings and is ready to live your life with more energy, mental clarity, and purpose, there is hope. Here we believe that with God, a mindset of unstoppability, and consistent execution of a winning strategy, anything is possible for you. So if you're ready to find freedom from food addiction, take control of your health, and pursue your dreams with renewed energy, support, and accountability, let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Healthy Real Food podcast. I am so excited today. We have a really special guest, Dr. Jason Shumard. Dr. Jason Shumard is a functional medicine practitioner. He has over 20 years of experience specializing in type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, and he helps women uncover the root causes behind weight gain, fatigue, blood sugar imbalance. So just right in alignment with what we're talking about here, and really looking forward to getting his insights, how to take this complicated metabolic topic and make it really simple to understand. So welcome, Dr. Shumard, to the show. We are so excited to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Before we jump in, I would love if you would just share a little bit about your story with us. What led you into this work? Tell us about what you do.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think we all fall into these little places when we don't expect to. Growing up, I was a huge athlete and really wanted to be in some sort of a sports medicine type thing. And I chose more of a holistic route. I chose to go to become a doctor of chiropractic and work with and athletes. That was my main goal. I went into the program. At that time, my mom was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And like many individuals, some of you on the listening today, thinking it's going to be a manageable case, take the medication, change the lifestyle, no problem, can manage this, and no big deal. Was I not further from the truth? Right. So we found as things progressed with my mom, she was getting sicker and sicker, taking more medications, and it just didn't seem right. It didn't sit with me right. And as I was going through school, lo and behold, I came upon something called functional medicine. Had no idea what functional medicine was, and I was very fortunate that our school had that open base, if you will, allowing these things to be presented to the students. And so I just started digging into it more, started to go into some of the trainings. And as I started learning more about this, I realized there's a lot that can be done with individuals who have insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and other chronic degenerative diseases. And my main focus was, okay, if I can learn some things to help my mom with her disease process, that's a win because this is someone who's very important in my life. When I got out of school, I continued my postgraduate education in functional medicine, learning more. And I got to a point where I felt really good about my knowledge I had. And I went to my mom and dad, I presented it to them, and it fell on them with deaf ears. Neither one of them were interested. They were not interested in what would need to be done, the protocols, etc. They were at a place that they're being told by her doctor that she was fine. Her blood sugars are being managed, even though her quality of life was declining, even though she was taking more medications, everything was being focused on her blood sugars. And it didn't matter year after year as I started implementing this in my own patients, I started seeing people actually reversing diabetes. What does that mean? Getting off medications, normal A1Cs, having their life back again, not having to be at a place where they have to worry about what kind of complications going to happen. Eventually, as things progressed with my mom, she moved into more complications. She went into dialysis, eventually had a stroke, and she passed in 2021 from a disease that we know we can reverse. I've already helped hundreds, if not thousands of people by the time she passed, and it was very frustrating. So this is when I really started becoming more active. We've started scaling our practice to nationwide to help individuals throughout the country didn't have access to functional medicine. So really, I think functional medicine found me. It was a place that I needed to be. And even though I wasn't able to help my mom, I now have, and within her legacy, if you will, the ability to help so many other people that are at a place where they're ready to listen and to start taking control of their life.
It's so heartbreaking to hear that story, and I think it's such a common thing. I know in our family, I've had a lot of, family members that have also suffered and died from type 2 diabetes, and it breaks my heart. That I think that mission, it's not just about the superficial reasons of getting healthy and looking a certain way or meeting some societal norm, the lifestyle changes that we talk about here, it's about being able to live longer, to have quality of life, potentially adding years to your life and being able to do all of the things that you want to do. Our life on earth is so short and precious, and especially when you have that background with your own mom, yeah, it makes you so empathetic toward what other people are going through as well. And
Yeah, it definitely fuels the passion, right? I get to yes, is I think the hardest part about what I do is probably the business side. The most fun is the actual one-on-one with patients. It's a lot of fun to work with them and get that excitement and seeing the changes and getting the testimonials and all the things that we see with our patient base. That's what it's really all about. Do we take a lot of heat for things? For sure, but that's just because I have a bigger target on my back now, which is totally fine. I have no problem doing that because we have a system that killed my mom because they gave her the wrong information. So I have no problem fighting as long as I have to for this.
what do you wish your mom would have known? Or what do you wish someone who is pre-diabetic or heading that way or who is diabetic, what do you wish that they knew?
I think the first and foremost, everyone hears and maybe understands the term insulin resistance, but they don't truly understand what insulin resistance really is. And once you understand the definition of that, it really opens up your mind to what's really going on. Because most people dealing with pre-diabetes, which I kind of and that's like pre-pregnancy. That's there. It's like the ball is rolling. There is no pre-pregnancy. It's like either a yes or no type of thing going on. So essentially, when you look at diabetes, most people believe it is a blood sugar problem. That all they have to do is to focus on lowering their sugars. That is not even close to what's going on because people throw this term around insulin resistance. What is insulin resistance? Essentially, insulin resistance happens at the cells. We have trillions of cells in our body, and each one of those cells has what are called mitochondria, which is our engines. Think about your car. You don't just throw your gas into your engine, it goes into your gas tank. And then from the gas tank, it goes from a gas line to your engine. This mimics exactly what happens in your body. We consume food, right? That food gets into our gas tank, which is our gut, because it gets converted to glucose, and then gets released into our bloodstream, which is our fuel line, and then eventually gets produced to our cells. There's one thing that we haven't talked about because we now have glucose, but we haven't talked about the other hormone, which is insulin. Now, insulin is then released by the pancreas when you induce sugar into the bloodstream, glucose. Now, the two team up. They now have to team up and combine together, and they eventually move themselves to the cell. Outside of your cells, you have what's called an insulin receptor. These receptors are like a baseball glove and a baseball, right? They fit perfectly together, if you will. But essentially, the insulin, as it attaches to that insulin receptor, it unlocks a door that then opens the cell doors. Now, the glucose can enter the cell and then go into the mitochondria, which is our engines, and do its job, right? Produce ATP in how we function as human beings. This is the most basic fundamental function. If that cannot happen in your body, you cannot survive very long because you won't have the energy to do what's necessary. Now, that's a normal person. With someone with diabetes, the same thing happens. Everything from the digestive tract still happens. Everything in the pancreas still releases insulin. The problem is when we get over to the cell, that receptor has now closed down. And now the insulin cannot attach. This is why we see insulin resistance. That's why it's called that way, because the receptor is no longer available to accept the insulin. Now, with one cell, the person's not even going to recognize this. Nothing's going to happen. But over years and decades, as more and more of these cells, same thing happening, it's triggering to multiple cells. Now we start to get a problem because now the sugar can no longer enter the cell. Now, where does it go? It goes back to the bloodstream, causing elevated sugar. And so we go see our doctor and we see this elevated sugar. And now all the focus is, how can we get that sugar down? And again, that's important. We don't want high sugars. But the reality is, we don't want to focus on the sugar. We want to focus on the cell. And how can we get that cell healthy again? Because this is why diabetes is considered a progressive disease, because all the focus in traditional medicine is on trying to lower sugar. Even in holistic medicine, we've got berberine, chromium. Here's the best blood sugar medication, supplement you can take to lower your blood sugars. Everything is focused around lowering sugars. And people think that's the best option. But the reality is, unless your focus changes from blood sugar to cell, you're never going to get better. And this is the secret, because if you can fix those cells and get those cells doing their job again, the body will naturally do its own job again. The sugar will then enter the cells, that will naturally go down in the bloodstream, and you have normal function again. And that's what we can truly see with reversing diabetes. The question is, though, why are the cells breaking down? What mechanisms are driving those cells to break down? And that's where the whole problem becomes a major issue, because it's not just one thing. It is multiple. In our office, we typically see anywhere between 10 and 20 different problems that are contributing to closing down those cellular doors, if you will, and causing insulin resistance. And if you have that individual only working on one of those things, they're never going to see changes. They're going to get worse with time.
So what are the causes of insulin resistance?
Yeah, there's multiple things that can cause this, right? Let's go over a few. The first one we can talk about is there are multiple organs and glands that are involved in blood sugar regulation, like the liver, like the kidney, the adrenal glands, the gut, the thyroid, the brain, obviously. So we have all these different organs that are involved in the ability for you to regulate sugar. So if one or more of those organs or glands are not functioning optimally, I don't mean disease, they're not functioning properly, it's going to contribute to the cell problem. So that has to be evaluated. There are so many things that could be driving these damages in the cellular level. This is the reason why it requires someone to get a comprehensive analysis. We call it our root cause analysis. We can evaluate someone very comprehensively, then we can understand, right? If someone's car breaks down and you walk outside and your car won't turn on, do you call your mechanic and say, hey, how much is it going to cost to fix my car? My car won't start. How much is it going to cost to fix my car? No, the mechanic says, how do I know? We don't know why your car won't start. What's the problem going on? We have to have you bring it in, get it towed over here. We can evaluate it. We can show you exactly what's going on. That's the human body the same way. Just because you have a diagnosis of, say, type 2 diabetes doesn't mean you know exactly what the cause is. You have to be evaluated, because from one individual, they may have 5 to 7 problems. The next one could have 25 to 30 problems. So it's going to be unique to the individual, what's really going on in their situation.
Yeah, it seems like functional medicine is a lot more in depth than just going to the doctor once a year for 15 minutes and
Yeah.
getting a few labs drawn. So tell us a little bit about what's different about functional medicine.
Yeah, I think they both play such a major role in our society, and there's a major need. The problem is that most people, if you go to ask 100 people and say, hey, what's the goal of you working with your doctor? Every single one of them would say, to keep me healthy. That's not the goal of medicine. Medicine's goal is not to keep you healthy. Medicine's goal is to keep you from dying today, right? Medical school teaches emergency medicine. That's why every single medical doctor goes to rounds at a hospital, and they have to go to for 4 to 5 years to eventually find out what kind of specialization they want to do, because they're learning emergency medicine. There is nothing in the curriculum that says holistic, how to keep you healthy, how to keep longevity. That's not in their curriculum. There are some of those that move down that world, and we need those individuals, because when you have a broken arm, when you have internal bleeding, when you have a heart attack or a stroke, you need to go see someone who's a medical professional. But if your mindset is, hey, I'm going to go see my doctor every single year because they're going to keep me healthy, that's not their job. A functional medicines doctor is to keep you healthy. So the perfect world would be, let's just say someone has a heart attack, right? They go to a hospital and they survive, right? They have a 50-50 chance of surviving. That's what the stats show us. So they survived. And what are they being told? They're being told, go check in with your cardiologist or a primary care doctor. What if they were told, you need to, here's a list of functional medicine doctors, go see one of them so they can identify why you had the heart attack in the first place to prevent it from coming back. Imagine that type of world if we had that, because that's what truly should happen. But most people believe when they leave the hospital, they're now in a safe place. They're not in a safe place. They're just now out of that emergency. They still have to go find out what the problem is. And what a functional medicine doctor can do is they can look deeper inside the body, running specific, more customized testing to identify what is broken. Because whatever's broken is still there, right? You just now cleared out the emergency, but you still have to go find out what that is. So this is why we need both, right? So if your mindset is, hey, my doctor is going to be the one keeping me healthy, you're going to have a problem in the future, because that's not their job. Their job is to keep you out of the emergency. If you want to get healthy, you have to look outside the box. You have to start investing into your health, because that's where the dividends are going to pay off. And that's where functional medicine plays a major role. Not only helping people preventing these diseases in the future, but identifying why they have them in the first place and addressing those underlying issues. The great news is that the work that the protocols we use is more natural and holistic. We use food because food is medicine. We all know that.
Yeah, I mean, food really is the best medicine. We see it all the time in our program. I'm the founder of NutriHabit. We have a group and one-to-one coaching program, and what we do is focus on the nutrition piece of it, because there there definitely is a place for medication and things like that, but we can reverse a lot of the damage that we've done with our bodies with lifestyle changes, with food, with movement. I have a question about insulin resistance, if we can
Yes.
go back to that. How would a woman know that she has insulin resistance before it becomes diabetes?
Yep. So a couple things you can do. One thing that I would ask, and I would just, if you're getting regular checkups by your doctor every single year, they're going to run your traditional lipid panel, right? Your total cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, the good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, et cetera. That's something you want to get done. But I would always ask them for a fasting glucose, because sometimes they do or don't do that. And I'd always ask them to run an A1C. So A1C, it's called a hemoglobin A1C. This is a marker that identifies a 90-day average of how your body is managing its own sugars. So to give you the numbers, below a 5.7 is considered a non-diabetic. 5.7 to 6.3 is what they consider a pre-diabetic. That's someone who's developing the situation. And 6.4 and above is considered diabetes. So that's a good test. And I'd also ask them to put an insulin in there as well. Serum insulin is another important one to run. We ideally want to see your insulin below a 4. Anything above a 6 is very high. So if you have the reason why I'm saying all of those is because let's just say your fasting glucose is 95, your A1C is at a 5.6, but your insulin is at an 8. What is that telling you? That means that your insulin is increasing, because what's happening here is your pancreas is seeing and sensing higher amounts of sugars staying in your bloodstream. We're just not seeing the effects of it on your testing there, but it's a strong indication that insulin resistance is developing. That's happening inside your body. A second test that you can do is you can evaluate your triglycerides to HDL ratio. So you can just so that's why the lipid profile is a good test to do there as well. When you do that triglycerides to HDL ratio, you want that below, if I remember correctly, I think it's below a 3. You want that below a 3 is ideally. If you're going above that, you're starting to develop insulin resistance as well. So it's that gap between your triglycerides and your HDL is what you're looking at there. So all those are really great because you could do your triglycerides HDL and it could be above a 3, but you look at your insulin, it's fine, A1C is fine, and your glucose is fine. But what is that indicating? Things are developing. So you're seeing the early stages of it. So these are ways you can evaluate for early stages and not waiting until your sugar starts rising.
And high insulin levels also can make you hungrier. Can you
Yes.
explain a little bit about how insulin resistance drives cravings and that constant food chatter that a lot of people struggle with?
Yep. And this is where those of you that are listening to this, where the GLP-1 situation comes into play as well. Because the GLP-1 actually is a protein inside your gastrointestinal system, as well as the leptin as well is part of that. And both of those are involved in satiation. So it's sending a negative feedback back to the brain, indicating I have had enough food, I'm good to go. But what happens is when you have this high amounts of insulin consistently, in the initial stages, you won't really notice it too much, but as things progress over time, it starts to suppress leptin and GLP-1 because they inversely affect each other there, inversely, I should say. And so as insulin goes up, GLP-1 goes down, and so does leptin. And so what happens is what? You start to gain weight, metabolism starts to slow down, and the hunger and the cravings continue because you're not getting that communication back to the brain saying, we're satiated, we have enough food, we're good to go at this point. This is why many individuals, when they start taking the GLP-1s, they get such a great result because they've stalled their GLP-1 hormone so much for multiple years of this insulin spikes and insulin resistance.
In our program, we focus on eating a real food lifestyle, and our food list is free from sugar and flour. There are those of us that completely abstain from sugar and flour, those of us that moderate that, but most of our food is real food. Every food group. What happens in the body when somebody makes that change and when they start to eat healthier and they have that balance of macronutrients and stabilize the blood sugars? How does that affect insulin resistance?
Yeah, love it. So what happens is when you're doing things like flour or refined sugars, the problem with those types of foods is it gets into your intestinal tract very rapidly and then releases very rapidly into the bloodstream. So you get these huge spikes of sugar very rapidly. When you start removing that, you start reducing that because when you get a huge spikes of sugar, you're also going to get a huge spike of insulin. And when that happens over and over again, think of it this way. When you pour too much water on a plant, what happens? The plant dies, it wilts away. When you pour too much insulin on your cells, the same thing happens over many years. It starts to close up those receptors. That's a mechanism. That high amounts of insulin is a mechanism driving that cellular damage we were talking about before. So this, what you're talking about here, actually starts healing those cells that were impacted by those huge amounts of insulin, right? So that's why we start seeing people dropping their sugars because a certain percentage of those cells that are damaged will be due to lifestyle itself, but not all of them in most cases. So when you start switching that over to more of a whole food type diet with macronutrients, like you're bringing more of the vegetables, maybe some lean proteins, some good quality nuts and seeds, more of the glycemic fruits, even like the berries and those sort of things. What happens is that your gut immediately starts slowing down the production of glucose and the release of glucose or sugar into your bloodstream. And when you have these releases of sugar, now you get these micro releases of insulin. So you're not getting these huge spikes impacting your cells negatively. This is a phenomenal process. And not only does it help lower the amount of sugar being released over time, but it also starts reducing this inflammatory cascade from the guts having so much sugar and all that sugar and flour impacting the microbiome. The gut bacteria starts to go down. You get increasing in the gut inflammation that can lead to a whole slew of other problems, but also can start to create systemic inflammation as well, which now you start to see these people with their circulations being impacted, their joints start to hurt, they feel just crummy, they don't have any energy, they have brain fog. So all those things get impacted by just making that shift alone, which is why many individuals, you've probably seen this, we've seen it all the time. When you start making that one little shift of that food, what do we all hear within about 2 weeks? Man, I just feel so much better. My brain is clear. My energy is boosting. I'm losing some weight. My sleep is so much better as well. This is not some sort of miracle. It's your body finally taking a deep breath saying, thank you. I just needed to calm down And now we're starting to see the real transition of the person and what they do for the rest of their life.
I think a lot of the people who listen to our podcast have been riding that dieting roller coaster for years and sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. Most of my listeners have been told to just to eat less and move more their whole lives. But why do you feel like that advice fails women over 40? What are your thoughts on how we can keep a healthy metabolism as we're making these lifestyle changes?
Yeah, I think it's a common thing, right? Now, there's a difference between caloric reduction and just fads. We're just shutting down your eat. I'm only eating one time a day. It's like that amount of stress on your body because here's what's important. Glucose and sugar is essential for everything in your body. It's our fuel source. So if you're not giving your body fuel, then it's going to grab it from somewhere, right? Because your heart needs it, your brain needs it, your lungs need it. It's still going to grab it. So where's it going to grab from? It's going to grab from muscle initially. And take all the glucose and glycogen it can from the muscles, and then it's going to start going and grabbing from the liver. And the last place it's going to go to is the fat, right? And so when you do that, by the time you get to a place where it's going to start grabbing from fat, you're consuming food. And now you're just going to consume all this glucose. It's going to refill up in your muscles, refill up your liver, and then the rest is going to go to your fat. So you're not really making any changes in that by doing that to yourself. What you want to do is you want to be eating consistently throughout the day, right? We're in good quality food because that's going to help sustaining your sugar. So then when you're actively being involved, like when you're doing some activities, now your body can go and strategically remove the fat that it needs to now if you're trying to lose that weight. On top of that, by putting your body in this stressful environment, by no food and then boom food and then no food, that creates a major catastrophic event on your adrenal glands and the production of cortisol because that creates a stressful environment. And now cortisol is going to be produced, which is going to shut down your brain, shut down metabolism, and it's going to store fat because it's basically telling your body saying, I'm in a stressful environment here. I need to hold on to all this fat and put bloodstream to my extremities because I'm ready to run from the saber-tooth tiger. And when you're in this environment consistently like that, you're just going to hold on to all that fat. And you over here thinking, I'm not eating any food. Why am I gaining weight or why am I not losing weight? And I'm out there busting it on the treadmill all for 30 to 45 minutes and lifting weights and everything. I'm not losing any fat because this is where you hear a lot of people say you have a hormonal imbalance. And when they say hormonal imbalance, it could be your female hormones, which most people think it is. That's what they're thinking. But most of the time it's cortisol imbalance. It's because you don't have the proper steps in place of your nutrition and your activities in a specific order, because we don't just have a slower metabolism. We create a slower metabolism by the poor lifestyle choices that we make.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel like they have to starve themselves to be able to lose weight at all. But I really believe it's really about eating more to lose more, just more of the right things.
Yep.
For people who are wanting to lose weight in our program, we recommend first we look at what they've been doing the last couple of years. Some people come into our program and before they came to us, they've been eating 1,000 calories for a couple of years and they're not losing weight and they're so frustrated. And so what I teach them is that first we have to take those steps to restore your metabolism and getting your body out of that stress state, nourishing your body. And once you are at a place where you are eating healthier and you have a healthier metabolism at that point, we would recommend like a 10 to 30% caloric reduction with intermittent maintenance breaks. I usually tell people 6 to 12 weeks of a weight loss phase, followed by at least 2 to 3 weeks of a maintenance break and or longer, like equal to their weight loss phase would be ideal.
Yeah, I think I love your strategy because it's cycled, right? And I love the cycling aspect of it because so many people like, I'm just going to hit it hard and not taking that
Mhm.
break, and they can get to this plateau and they get frustrated, like it's not working and they just give up on it. But if it's just the strategies there is, okay, we're going to work aggressively, if you will, for 6 to 12 weeks. And then we're going to cycle it out for 2, 3 weeks because your body needs that break recovery. Just like you can't just work out every single day and not have a break. Your body needs breaks from these workouts. If you look at all the research out there, the most important thing about working out is recovery, right? Giving the body the recovery time that it needs, because if not, you're going to injure the joints, injure the muscles, and now you're going to be out for a longer period of time. I love your strategy in the same thing. right? It's having this process of, listen, we're going to go for a period of time. We're going to take a little break, back off a little bit, and then get back at it again because that gives the body the time it needs to catch up.
I like what you said about just nourishing your body throughout the day really can help us to lose weight faster than just under eating.
Yeah, it's interesting, even in the space with diabetes, they have a similar mindset. If I eat less, my blood sugars will get better. And they
Mm.
don't see that happening. And we start working with them. We start increasing the amount of food they're eating. They're like, man, I can't eat this much. I'm like, yeah, you can. Your body is just not used to it. We need time for your body to get used to it. And they start eating more. And next thing you know, they start, they're lowering their sugars. Their body starts functioning better. It's no different than you have someone who comes to you probably, I'm only eating the carnivore. I'm not eating any carbs and I'm not losing any weight. They start bringing in carbs. What happened? They lose weight because their body has been like needing this type of nutrient that's been lacking because they read online somewhere, someone said, hey, I lost this the amount of weight because I did the carnivore diet or whatever, or I did this because I cut out all fat. And yeah, there are certain things that could do for our individuals, but we have to look at the situation and put together a proper plan for them.
It definitely helps to have support when you're trying to figure this out, but we want to turn to those evidence-based sources and not just fads or gimmicks or quick fixes. I think the right plan for you is the one you can stick to consistently and adopting that lifestyle mindset, the identity instead of focusing on the results, on the weight. When you change the way that you eat, when you change the way that you think about food and about your body, and you just focus on the process, the results will take care of themselves.
Yeah, and
Uh,
you should take time. If you're losing weight, like you're hearing some of these people that are losing weight with the GLP-1s and things like 15, 20 pounds in a month type of thing. I'm like, here's the thing. If you don't have a plan at the end, it's all going to come right back again, right? You got to have a plan. So if the slow, steady is so much easier and better for the individual, yeah, it may take longer. You may not be like, be frustrated because it's taking so long, but like 1 to 2 pounds a week is much healthier than the fast weight. And it's much more sustainable as well for the individual.
right. And we found for people who are taking GLP-1s that having structure, having a structured meal plan is so important because you're not hungry. And so a lot of people, yeah, they just starve themselves and they're losing so much weight, not just fat, but also muscle. And like you
Yeah.
said, without the plan at the end, then it's so common to have that rebound. And you're rebounding fat, not regaining muscle. And so it
That's
leaves
right.
you worse off metabolically. So important to just do this slow and steady way. It really is the faster way in the long run when you look at it to lose weight for the last time and to keep it off.
I think that's why analytics are so important, right? Looking at things not from a scale only perspective, that can be one thing you look at, but looking at your percent body fat, looking at muscle mass. I love a lot of the devices out there these days. I think the Hume is a great device because it not only gives you you can track your weight, everything, but it actually shows you what is your muscle mass, what is your water weight, what is your percent body fat. And oftentimes when we see people doing these things on GLP-1s or seeing their muscle mass, like you said, going down, their percent body fat not even changing, even though they have less weight. And they're like happy, but I'm like, yeah, but you're losing the wrong type of weight. You need to be
Mhm.
losing more of that fat than the muscle. So that consistency of a good nutrition plan by working with a coach like yourself and actually a training program as well, even with a trainer, making sure you're staying on weights was very important. I think I cannot stress that enough when we have patients who are, because most of the patients that we see are on GLP-1s, they're by the prescriber, the physician, right? We're seeing that. I'm like, okay, what's your exercise routine? I'm walking. Okay, what about weights? I'm not doing any weights. We got to get you on weights because if you're doing these, you're going to sustain these muscles because if not, you're going to get osteopenia, osteoporosis, and other problems. And that's a big problem for you. And so they don't, no one's telling them this stuff because they're just writing the prescription and saying, here you go. And they're losing the weight, coming in high five their doc saying, it's working, doc. Okay, fantastic. But not looking at the consequences down the road.
The problem is when we lose weight at the expense of our muscle and our bone density, it really isn't contributing to longevity. It can leave us less healthy. It's so important to look at your body composition and your muscle mass, and resistance training really is non-negotiable, I feel, during weight loss, whether you're on GLP-1s or not. I think it can feel overwhelming for people who are trying to lose weight to change the way that they eat and to start exercising. but we always just talk about the pillars of health. So sleep first, sleep is so important, nutrition, and then once those things are automated, yes, be sure to be doing resistance training at least one upper body day, one lower body day a week at the very minimum, just to maintain muscle, but more to be able to grow muscle. Is that what your thoughts are too?
I love it. It doesn't have to even be like going to a Gold's Gym or something, right? Which just can be scary for somebody who's not ever done that before and overwhelming. This can be just body weight.
Yeah.
You could use a chair and sit down and stand up to go up and down stairs, right? Do a plank, right? Do a modified push up with your knees and your hands. Like all these things, it doesn't have to be like we're doing major resistance and you can work up and then immediately feel more confident. Get some exercise bands, right? You start doing some exercise bands, which there's some on Amazon for $30 and it comes with a whole book of, I don't know, 100 pages of different exercises you can do with these bands. So there's so many things you can do just in the comfort of your own home and still get the benefits out of it.
Yeah. I hope that people who listen to the podcast today just feel hope. What you said about insulin resistance, what you taught us about being able to reverse diabetes is just so amazing. And I think that people who feel like they're on that health trajectory, they're seeing their health declining. Is it really possible, Dr. Sherman, for someone who is in their 50s or 60s to reverse prediabetes or type 2 diabetes?
100%. And like here's what not only the what I know, but the physiology says it as well. If you have a heartbeat, if your brain is functioning and you have circulation, you could heal. So
Mm.
the only thing different about you and I and someone 6 feet under is we have those things going on for us. We have a brain that's functioning, we have a heartbeat, and we have circulation. That's what's different. And if you have those things, your body can heal. It doesn't matter how old you are. I've worked with 95-year-olds and I've worked with 25-year-olds. And guess what? The 95-year-olds don't take longer to heal than 25s. They can still heal just as quick as those guys. And it's amazing to see that way. If there's motivation and drive and you have a commitment level, I'm sure you ask for the same thing from the people you work with, then you can get better, right? And that's the reason why my mom didn't get better because she wasn't committed. She wasn't interested in doing the work until it became really severe. And by that time, it was too late. So, what's crazy about diabetes is that many individuals they don't feel it, right? You don't feel the problems because in the initial stages, there's not enough cells that are damaged, right? Think about this. What other disease out there it can affect any tissue in the body, right? One person could be the brain, the next one could be the eyes, the next one could be the heart, next one could be the lungs, the kidneys, the GI, circulation, numbness and tingling, etc. There is no other disease that can do that. And the reason why it does that is because it's a cell disease, and every single one of those tissues in your body are made of cells. So wherever the cell disease is happening faster, that's where the complication is going to occur. But when you start feeling symptoms, whatever it might be, numbness and tingling, you start having blood pressure going up, you start having cholesterol increasing, those are not just side effects of you getting older. That is the body telling you the problem is worsening, and if you don't take action soon, a more catastrophic event is going to happen.
And it's never too late to get started. It's
Never.
never really too late to change. I remember back in 2020, when I was 284 pounds and I felt powerless against my cravings. I had signs and symptoms of insulin resistance and prediabetes, and I saw the trajectory of my health, and that really scared me. At that time, I had three little girls, and they needed me to be their mom and to show up for them. And that was my really deep why. And I had tried it all. I felt like I had tried all of the diets and nothing worked for me. I would be really consistent and all in with something, and then I'd make a mistake and give up and gain all the weight back and just this exhausting roller coaster ride. But but yeah, there really is hope. And I think that when you have a winning strategy, when you can master your mindset and you can get the support that you need and execute your plan, anything is possible for you. As we're getting older, we don't have to get sicker. We can get healthier and feel younger as we're getting older. So, if a listener was listening to this podcast, Dr. Sherman, and just feeling overwhelmed by years of failed diets, what advice would you have? Where should she start this week?
Your story you just said it just is really beautiful. I think I think that is something someone needs to look within, right? What is their why? Right? What is your why that you're trying to fulfill X, Y, and Z? Because if your why is not big enough, likely you're gonna fail, right? Someone doesn't just wake up one day and say, I want to go run 26.2 miles for a marathon, right? Their why is because whatever it might be. Maybe because they just like it's something it's on my goal in my life, right? I want to check that box off, whatever it might be. But for somebody who is in a place right now, really dig deep and say, what is my reason for doing this? Because if your reason is big enough, nothing will be able to stop you. You're going to be like a rhinoceros running through walls. And I don't care any of the hatred, anybody saying, oh, it's not going to work, or whatever else you get out there is going to bounce off you because you know innately and internally that this is going to be the best thing for you. And the reality is you're going to get better. The statistics are real. 70% of all benefits come from belief, and roughly 30% come from the action of what you're doing. That is astonishing to think about this. Think about this. If you believe that you can lose 100 pounds, like truly believe it, like you have the ability to do this, you believe it, you wake up every morning, I know I can do this, you're already 70% there. That's incredible to think about. And now you just have to implement the steps one by one, day by day, right? Small little steps every single day. You get to the first day, your breakfast and lunch were fantastic. Your dinner was a little off. That's a win. The next day you wake up, now you got all three meals that are doing well, but you had a bad snack. It's still a win. Those are not failures. And most people think, well, I'm failing. I'm not doing 100%. No one's going to be 100%. You want to think 90, 95%. If you're doing that every single day as you do this, and within 21 days and 90 days, your cravings are going to change, your wants are going to change, your body's going to change, all those things are going to happen. But we have to get to those thresholds first. And those are challenging because typical human beings want immediate results. That's why the self-limit is so powerful, right? People are like in that dopamine, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. But unfortunately, the good things for health take time. And if you can stick with it, you're going to get amazing results.
So beautifully said. Mindset is a skill set, and it is the most important thing that we can do first is to first decide what it is that we want, to have that vision and that hope of a better life, a healthier future, and then determining what your deep why is. When you have a deep why, you can overcome any obstacle that gets in your way. If you don't know how, you'll figure out how. But first, it really is so important to have that deep why. And as you're going, as you're learning, yeah, failure is part of the process. You have to be bad at something before you can become good at something. It's like we
Yeah.
have to be comfortable with learning from our mistakes, and embracing failure is part of the success path. That it's not about perfection, it's about progress over perfection, and small changes over time will create such a dramatic impact. So, thank you so much,
Great.
Dr. Sherman. It was so wonderful to have you on the podcast today. We would love to know where we can learn more from you. I know you have a website, you have a clinic, I believe. Tell us a little bit about if someone wants to work with you or learn more from you, where can they go?
Yeah, the first place would be our website. The website is drshumard.com. So SHUMARD.com. There we have a lot of information about what we do, but more importantly, there's a registration option there for my webinar. And my webinar is a great space to go to because I go through in detail more about what we do, the specific things, why we do the specific things. It's about a 45 to 50-minute long webinar. And then from there, if there's the interest, there's a way you can schedule an appointment if that's something you're looking for as well. But the website's a great place. Also, we have a ton of information out there on our social media, our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, a lot of great content out there. If you're looking for more content on that as well, we'd love to have you be a part of our team there.
Definitely. We appreciate that resource, and so important, like you said, to look at the root cause behind what why we're struggling in the first place and addressing those things head on and not just changing behaviors or having this or that diet. It's so important to look at the root causes. So we appreciate you teaching us and explaining to us today. So great to meet you, and we wish you luck on your endeavors.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Erin.
Thanks for listening today. If you enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love my coaching program. If you're struggling and want to lose weight for the last time, I can help you. Just imagine living in your goal body and having peace with food. Your success is guaranteed. To learn more about how to get support, guidance, and accountability so you can find peace with food, achieve your goal body this year, and have more energy, visit www.healthyrealfood.com. While you're there, click the link to my schedule for a free one-to-one coaching call so we can get you started on your success path. You have the power to create the life that you want. This is the year of you. I'm cheering you on. Now go win the day. You got this.